Hey everybody, it's Phil Strazula from Select Software Reviews. I'm here with Devyn Mikell from Qualifi. We're going to talk today about video versus voice interviews, specifically asynchronous interviews for high volume recruiting. Devyn, thank you so much for taking the time out. Do you mind giving a quick background on yourself and kind of what you do on a day-to-day basis now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, quick background. The cool factor of me is I'm a food trucker turned software entrepreneur. Started a food truck when I was a junior in college, and then was hiring people for that, and then also had a side hustle working for senior care during the winter while it was too cold to be in a food truck here in Indiana. And that's where I really saw this like high volume, high turnover world and started this company with my brother who had this original idea, and it really resonated with me and what I was facing, and so jumped right in. And so now I'm part of running Qualifi, which is a phone interview asynchronous automation. And my day to day is thinking about our customer journey. So I work with anybody that's potential prospect all the way through current customer using us for years. So that's my day to day, and I oversee that whole journey.
Cool. That's awesome. And I guess, that you might have a little bit of bias here, but why are audio interviews preferable in some instances to video interviews?
Yeah, that was a good question. And it is a definitely, I'll cite my bias. And then two, I will say it depends. So for me, when we started this company, we thought that it would be great for everybody. And truth be told, it really might not be. What we found over time is it's good for a specific candidate, what we're kind of deeming like blue collar hourly workers. Or if you just want to kind of blanketly say hourly workers,
So
they
like retail, somebody working at a
yeah,
grocery store, McDonald's, stuff like that.
I would say
Warehouse.
in between. So there's ultra high volume like retail, food, manufacturing, where they may not have too many qualifications that they need to hit to be able to be hireable. And then you go a step below, or like down the funnel to still high volume, but a little bit more specialized, like in healthcare, for example, or in a call center where you want to hear how they interact with a patient, or you want to hear how they would interact with a customer on the phone. These kinds of areas where you want to hear how they interact with you. It's not just about them being able to lift a box or being able to show up on time. It's more than that. That's where we really are special, because typically what we found is candidates feel a little bit uncomfortable on video. If you think about social media and how we scroll and watch videos on social, but we're really probably not posting videos too often. Like I think 90% of users don't post, they just consume. Candidates are very similar. We put them in a position where they have to be on camera and they have to respond to these prompts, and it feels a little bit uncomfortable for them. And honestly, what we found too is sometimes they don't even have the webcam. They don't have a great background. They don't have a great environment. I've heard of companies like getting video interviews where the person's in their bathroom because that was the best place that they had. And it's like, we don't want to put a candidate through that. We would rather give them the flexibility to do this anywhere, anytime. So a lot of our interviews, 43% of them happen outside of business hours. So really seeing people taking these at like 10 p.m., sometimes at 2 a.m. They put their kid to bed, whatever it is, they're doing it on their time. So we're giving that flexible experience where you don't have to have good lighting, good backgrounds, and you can feel a lot more comfortable just with your voice.
Got it. Makes sense. And I wonder if how you think about audio versus text.
Yeah. So we kind of if we have a matrix, we put like text, then us, then video. If you talk about data, you're going to get the most data from video. You're going to get technically the least data from text. And we're right there in like what we call the perfect in between, where we're not giving you too much, where, if you get visuals, you can introduce visual bias, which is always dangerous. With text, you're getting really just how well do they type a response. So I think text, we think it's a strong avenue. I think it just limits what you can collect, is what I always say. So if you're trying to get like more check the box kind of answers, text is great. But if you do want to hear a little bit of interaction, maybe challenge them with the, situational interview question, you're going to get a better response out of audio. And then video is going to give you audio plus video. So it's really about not introducing the visual bias aspect is what we're trying to do.
And so would it be fair to say that text is maybe the best format for something like this, working in a retail setting where it's like, can you work Saturdays? Yes or no? Maybe, can you lift a 50-pound box? Yes or no? Are you authorized to work in the US? Yes or no? Versus, hey, here's a situation where, I don't know, I'm going to make up like some healthcare thing that happens in like a home health setting. What would you do in this situation?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like it's actually so clear the difference for us. Like we've added feature sets that if we do attract somebody that does that sort of hiring, we have a feature where it's not verbal. Like you actually just have yes, no's, multiple choice, that kind of thing, because we know you really just need those quick screeners. Then you can move them forward. So I'd say text or chatbot is usually best for that. And then sometimes people use both and they put us right after. So it just depends on the workflow. But typically, if you're doing a phone interview today, Qualifi would be a good fit for your high volume needs.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit about how do you make this a positive candidate experience? I think, as you pointed out, sometimes the videos can be a little bit intrusive or maybe a little bit awkward, even in today's world where many people might have a webcam or, be familiar with like social media, et cetera. How do you, like, what's the messaging, the timing? Like, what are the pro tips here to make this positive candidate experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So for one, we believe like speed is like a very highly overlooked way to bring a positive experience. So when we work with our customers, we always say, you used to take 7 to 14 days just to get to the phone interview being complete. And now think about the fact that you're getting an application in and phone interview done within 6 hours, same day. So not, from there already the candidate is experiencing a fast hiring process, which is ultimately they want a job now. So really we're trying to make that the main focal point of a good candidate experience. Beyond that though, I think what sets us apart, like, and why we've gotten such good candidate experience ratings is because it's clean and it's modern. And it sounds simple, but just being an HR tech and like seeing the tools out there and seeing the designs, we stand apart for sure. That's probably one of the main things we get cited for from our customer base is the usability of the system, how clean and modern it is, and how easy it is to get started. But from the candidate side, we meet them where they're at. So there's no apps, no downloads, no login. It's just link based through the text message or an email. They click the link, it already knows who they are. And then they hit a couple buttons and they're on the phone. And when they're on the phone, they're not hearing a robot. I think that's a big misconception that people like think about phones is like a VoIP system, but it's actually recorded by the recruiters. So it's them talking as the company to the candidate. So it feels very much like a conversation for them. And that's why when they get through that process, like we have anonymous candidate feedback. We get about a 98% positive or neutral candidate rating. And most of it is, I've never experienced something like this. I wish more companies did this, or I'm super glad I could do this whenever I wanted to. This is super flexible. Wish more companies would do something like this. So it's about the timing of it. They can do it whenever they want. And that experience actually feels pretty human for them, which is a big misconception that people would have going in.
That's great. Any other tips around like messaging when you first sort of send this to somebody, expectation setting?
Yeah, absolutely. So we train on the messaging up front. We have a pretty good out of the box messaging, but you can obviously customize everything. But what we say is set an expectation in the link. It actually has, this is recorded, so they know what they're getting into. There's directions up front. It's branded to the companies. So it all feels like it's theirs. But from a messaging perspective, you could have multiple. You could have the right after they interviewed and you drug them into the stage in their ATS. Boom, click hits. It hits them and says like, hey, you recently applied to this position. Would love to learn more about you. And we do it this way to help us fight bias, or to help us make this a faster, more pleasant experience for you. So it really just depends on kind of the play you want to make as a customer. The other way, though, is people can use this as a sourcing tool. So they can go through their candidate pool and say, hey, I want to reach out to my candidate pool. So you can have a messaging group in our system to do a completely different approach with Qualifi. So you could say, hey, you at one point applied to this role and we're reopening it. Is there any interest? If so, please click this link and either fill out a form, or you can actually do a phone interview through it. So you could take two routes, but there's many ways you could go with Qualifi. And also, you don't have to have any messaging at all. You could actually just use a link and put that, or a QR code, and put that out there as a sourcing tool and have people just interview on demand too. So lots of plays that we've seen people make with Qualifi.
That's great. What's like the most common criticism? You mentioned it's only 2%, I guess, of people that have a bad experience, but is there any sort of common threads there?
Let's see. I can give you past and how we resolved. So there used to be an issue where people might hang up on accident and then they have to restart the whole thing. And this is where I think when we became best in class for phone interviews is when we made what we call continuity. So not only can you take the phone interview, but if you were to hang up on accident or call drop dead zone or something like that, you actually can come back to your link and then it will restart the interview either via web, or it can call you again and start at the same exact place so you don't lose your spot. And I think that really helped us, one, see better response rates, but two, get that candidate experience up, because people are seeing like there's more than one way to actually complete this thing. And sometimes it can be scary to do new things. Everyone's pretty used to a traditional phone interview. So we're very cognizant of that change. So we want to make that as easy as possible for them. The only other candidate experience stuff comes in when it's like they maybe are waiting too long to hear back from a recruiter, and they're able to put that feedback through our system. So it's less on us, but there's some of that too.
Yeah, that's always frustrating.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, sometimes you're getting these phone screens done in 6 hours, or somebody walks into a, location, scans a QR code, does it. I mean, it's essentially instantaneous. I would imagine a lot of the value here to your customers is around decreasing time to fill. Do you mind talking through like how companies can think about the value calculation around, hey, our process used to be 20 days and now it's 14 days, or maybe it used to be 14 days, now it's 3 days, or whatever the case may be, but we basically shaved a significant time off. How do I think about like the ROI behind that?
Yeah, there's a few ways we talk about ROI. One is simply on time to hire. We usually shave about a week off of the time to hire just using automation like this, because typically it takes about 7 days, and that's being nice. I typically hear like 10 from most companies that it takes to get that phone interview done with the candidate. And that's just, honestly, we're in high volume, so it's hard. Like, it's hard to get to all these people. A lot of high volume shops, they have too many candidates, not enough recruiters is usually what they say. And when we talk about ROI, there's only really two ways to get all your candidates hit in the speed you want. Is either you're hiring more recruiters, or you're going to use some sort of automation, or you're going to stay the same. So hiring a recruiter now is more expensive than ever, and it's not easy to do. And it's not scalable. So if you continue to get volume, you're going to continue to hire. And I don't think that's the best way to approach getting to velocity of hiring. We believe in automation and what it can do, the power of, like, basically, we're not replacing any recruiters, we're augmenting and helping them do more high value work. Because what tends to be is like recruiters are stuck in the weeds of lower value tasks, or what we would call like admin work. And the ROI is really when you get them out of that, they can do more of the things that are really important, like the sourcing and finding hard to fill. Because if you're working in a hospital, for example, you're going to have high volume roles and then you're going to have nursing roles. So two very different things. And what I found is usually people are stuck doing the high volume roles because the applicant flow is there and they have to sift through it, and they never find enough time to get to the sourcing stuff. So not only is ROI of time to fill, but also ROI of getting to do the things that actually matter. So it's almost like an opportunity cost thing. One of the examples I have is working with one of our bigger healthcare customers. Like, they were finding 50% of their time was spent phone interviewing. And that was insane, actually. And they were trying to double their recruiting team. And so we came in and like, hey, you might not need to double your recruiting team just to get to where you're trying to get. If 50% of your time is spent doing this, we can save exponential amounts of money on your hiring side, and then also getting your recruiters to do valuable things that they actually really they're here for and they want to do more of. So that's how we look at it, not only just on time to hire, but also on like time spent doing certain tasks for your recruiting team.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear ROI. Sounds like you guys have had some good success with many of the customers you're working with. And it's especially the high volume recruiting, like every person I talk to, that it's all about speed, right? And if you're taking 14 days to get back to somebody, there's a time to fill aspect of this, but there's also just the function of them already finding another job. And so by the time you get to them, they're like, oh yeah, I started yesterday at XYZ talent competitor of yours, sorry. And so it's increasing your cost per hire, right? So
yeah, I think everyone, I don't know, there's a stat that's pretty popular. It's like your best talent is off the table in 10 days. And so we want to make sure that 10 days is not spent doing a phone interview. So we want to, you know, our expiration for our phone interviews is a maximum of 7 days. And that's rarely used. Most people use 3 to 5 days. So really 10 days is off the table.
Yeah. It's good to be the person that takes them off the table. Devyn, thanks for sharing your insights here. Thanks for trying to cite your bias and explain where videos are good too, because they certainly have a place in the talent acquisition stack. If anybody wants to follow up with you, curious about Qualifi, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. So personally, they can definitely find me on LinkedIn. I'm always open, any messages, always willing to chat. Otherwise, I think the best place to get information on our company is at qualifi.hr, qualifi.hr.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.